If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door. Harvey Milk. Hello and welcome, gamers. I am John, host of Video Games in the World, and today's episode is about the LGBTQ themes and characters in video games, and also about gamers and game developers that are representing the LGBTQ community. This is June, which means it's Pride Month for the LGBTQ community, and this episode is dedicated to every LGBTQ gamer, game developer, writer, designer, and music composer as well, and those who work in marketing too. We shall start with the history of Pride Month, why it's celebrated, remembering those we lost to hate crime, but with a message that hate cannot stop humanity from progressing into a more loving and tolerant race. Let's not forget some of the first LGBTQ people who achieved social, political, economic, scientific, and artistic success. I will confess, I was not very kind and friendly towards the LGBTQ at one point. In high school, things started to change. At college, I became a bit tolerant. But I had this belief that marriage was only a man and a woman, which got me in trouble with a lesbian coworker, and I said things I wish I never said. And for that, I am sorry. But what's done is done. And the best thing to do is redeem yourself, make amends, and move on. I took the time to critically think about it and realize that there are people and that they deserve happiness. But enough of that, we have to start this episode. Before we begin, I have a warning for you. Any prejudiced comments towards LGBTQ people is strongly ill-advised and shall result in deletion and blocking from my channel. Don't be small, okay? So enjoy the episode and have fun. Diviértanse. Why exactly June is the month of LGBT Pride? Because of the Stonewall riots in New York on June of 1969. And in those times, LGBT people didn't have enough rights and were not acknowledged as equals because of what they were. However, one man in San Francisco made all the difference in the 70s. His name was Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was the first openly gay man to be elected to public office, becoming a member of San Francisco's Board of Supervisors. But alongside Mayor George Moscone, he was assassinated by Dan White in 1975. After Milk, things began to slowly change. But still, the LGBTQ community was being discriminated against, as there have been youths who were bullied because of what they were, leading to self-harm and suicide, and others were fired from their teaching jobs after revealing themselves as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or trans, fearing they would do something nasty to kids. The worst known hate crimes against LGBTQ people were cases such as the Brandon Tina case, the Matthew Shepard case, Rebecca White and Claudia Brenner, and so many tragic cases as well. But these cases caused many people to stand up and fight not for special treatment, but for equality for LGBTQ people. Equal rights and opportunities they fought for, and also a call to stop the hatred against LGBTQ. Because in the end, we are human beings. We all have our strengths, weaknesses, the good, the bad, etc. Various foundations were created in the honor of the LGBTQ youths that lost their lives to hate or suicide, or were disowned because of religious reasons due to bullying as well, such as the Matthew Shepard Foundation, the Trevor Project, It Gets Better, and so on. Now, some religious people will condemn LGBTQ because of what it said in the Bible in passages such as Leviticus 20:13. Mainly religious groups like the Westboro Baptist Church. The worst part about it is that in some countries, homosexuality, bisexuality, and transgenderism are punishable by death, and that is something that needs to change. In the 80s, the AIDS pandemic put the LGBTQ community in a very bad position because people thought they were responsible for it. Now, blaming demographics over a virus is worse than the virus itself. It's called ignorance and hatred due to a lack of being educated about such things. Hating people for what they are is inhuman and sad. LGBTQ people are people, and if you do not think that they are, then you are part of the problem. These people are not asking for special treatment or seeking power and control over straights and other people. All they ask for is equality, to be seen, loved, listened to, and respected as human beings. Years passed and LGBT were getting the same rights as heterosexuals, women, and minorities. And there were more progressive steps such as earning the right to marry and adopt children. Even in entertainment, there were LGBT themes in movies, shows, sitcoms such as Friends, Seinfeld, Will and Grace, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Glee, The Arrowverse, Shameless, The 100, Steven Universe, and even video games and comics started having them more often than before. Of course, there were so many people against them getting married, and even discrimination against them promoted by that church we should call a cult. You all know what group that is. In 2015, they succeeded in legalizing the right to marry nationwide, and that's great. And other countries are still fighting for that right to legalize the right to marry for LGBTQ. There's still so much to be done for equality to be achieved. And if you're a heterosexual person like me, and at one point feel disgusted by LGBTQ, then I hope you can seek redemption by being better towards them, and educate yourself and be more tolerant, kind, and friendly. If your own friend or family member comes out of the closet, be accepting, loving, and kind, because they deserve the right to life, equal rights and opportunities, freedom to be whatever they want to be in life, the freedom to be themselves, free to love who they want to love, their liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. As said before, there were many other LGBTQ figures aside from Harvey Milk that inspired so many people in their community to learn that they can be whatever they want to be, and also have the courage and strength to be themselves. Names like Laura Hester and her partner Stacey Andre, Marlon Brando, Freddie Mercury, Paul Newman, George Michael, George Takei, Sally Ride, James Randi, Gianni Versace, Ricky Martin, Jason Collins, Darren Young, Gus Van Sant, Ian McKellen, Elliot Page, and so many more. And now, let us begin with the video games. Enjoy! Gaymer, with a Y, or Gay Gamer, is a video gamer who identifies as part of the LGBTQ community and have active interest in video games. Bisexual or transgender gamers are also part of this term, as well as queers and non-binaries. This demographic has been the subject of two large surveys that attracted press coverage by Jason Rockwood in 2006, who noted the level of prejudice that gamers endure, and another one in 2009 focusing on what gamers expect of video games. A gaming convention oriented to LGBT gaming and geek culture, GaymerX, took place on August 3rd and 4th in 2013 in San Francisco. Some game publishers introduce LGBT themes in their games to attract this market segment, and news companies cover salient examples of gay-friendly content and incidents and controversies that these themes raise among their player bases. Chris Vicini, owner of the gaming site Gaymer.org, was involved with several online communities between 2007 and 2013 in a controversy and legal dispute over the trademark of the term gamer. which ended when Vicini surrendered the right to the term and the trademark was cancelled. There have been college surveys about gay gamers in 2006 and in 2009. In 2006, the University of Illinois had a sociological study that looked at the gay gamer subgroup, focusing on the profile of a gamer with a Y, and concerns they have regarding the perception of them in the gaming community and visibility of gay characters in games. The study's author noted the level of prejudice that gamers endure. Gay gamers experience a double-edged sword of prejudice. The mainstream gay culture and media is not supportive of video games. Then you have the video game culture that is not supportive of gay culture. So you have these people stuck in the middle who have this double-edged prejudice. With about 10,000 respondents, the survey exhibited a reverse bell curve of gamer sexuality, with most people identifying as either or completely heterosexual or homosexual. Only a very small minority of the respondents to the first survey supported the use of the term gamer. In late August 2009, Full Sail University student Paul S. Nowak began a second survey of gamer play preferences. The survey focused on questions of content such as plot, genre, customization, and other in-game experiences. The survey team reported that over 7,000 people participated in the survey. The results of Nowak's survey were used by Nowak to build a profile of the gay gamer community and gain unique insight into this financially untapped demographic. These results were not published in an academic journal, though a later Nowak's book lists gamers as preferring role-playing games pertaining to the hardcore explorer/achiever gamer type, and appreciating good plot and good quality homosexual content, which he defines as game content which reflects homosexual orientation in a positive or equal to heterosexual orientation content. Inside the gaming industry, while the majority of the developers are white and heterosexual, this demographic was challenged strongly by the record-breaking success of The Sims. Video game developer Maxis had resisted Will Wright's goal of creating the title on the grounds that girls don't play video games. The title was seen as unappealing to young heterosexual males. In the 1990s, the industry began to make some effort to market games to women by creating software titles with strong independent female characters. Some games that are considered to appeal mainly to the non-traditional demographic continue to censor homosexuality. But some video game companies are now moving to further expand their marketing base to include the perceived market of affluent homosexual young men by including LGBTQ characters and supporting LGBTQ rights. Critics of the suppression of gay identity often conclude that as homosexuality is normalized in broader culture, it will be in video games as well. One of those examples is Clive Barker, the mastermind behind the hit video game Undying, Nightbreed, and Jericho is actually gay. Mr. Barker is also known for the hit movies Hellraiser, Gods and Monsters, Lord of Illusions, and so on. LGBTQ game developers have always been around. According to the International Game Developers Association Game Developer Demographics Report from 2005, there are about as many LGBT people in the games industry as there are in the general population. Gaming has long been shaped by LGBTQ creators. Without gay, lesbian, bi, pan, non-binary, or transgender developers, gaming would look very different. We wouldn't have beloved indie classics, modern blockbuster RPGs, or even juggernauts like World of Warcraft or The Sims. The most well-known LGBTQ game developers are the following. Danielle Buntenberry was a transgender female known for her work on Mule, a multiplayer game for the Atari 400, and early personal computers that pitted 4 players against one another to create the most populous or survivable space colony. With a multitude of options and strategies, Mule will remain firmly on lists of the best games of all time for decades after its 1983 launch. Legendary developers like Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto, The Sims creator Will Wright, acknowledging Barry's influence over their creations. She has been hailed as one of the most brilliant designers to have ever been in the gaming industry. Barry pioneered multiplayer games in directions no one else had considered before, laying groundwork for modern MMOs. In 1998, 2 months before she passed away from lung cancer, the Computer Game Developers Association presented Danielle Barry their Lifetime Achievement Award. Barry will go on to be inducted into the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame in 2007, almost 10 years after her death. Thank you, Miss Barry. Matt Thorson is a non-binary game developer. One of the only hits on the ill-fated Ouya microconsole was Towerfall, a competitive game in the vein of Super Smash Bros. and Street Fighter that pit 4 players against one another, armed only with arrows. The game eventually made its way to practically every other system with more single and multiplayer content under the title Towerfall Ascension, cementing its place as one of the most wildly popular indie games of 2014. Matt Thorson launched into creating a follow-up right away, crafting a game about scaling a mountain. The concept grew into the indie sensation Celeste, which sold over 500,000 copies in 2018 and earned recognition as one of the best games of the entire decade. Through the development of both games, Thorson struggled with their gender identity and publicly came out as non-binary in 2019. This made Thorson one of the most prominent non-binary game creators of all time. David Gaymer is an openly gay game developer who worked with BioWare and wrote beloved classics of the company such as Baldur's Gate 2, Knights of the Old Republic, and the entire Dragon Age franchise. Gaymer himself wrote 3 additional novels and 3 comic books expanding the Dragon Age universe. He was celebrated for the creation of a gay Dragon Age character named Dorian. Well done, David. Very well done. Macy Wallen is a non-binary, Melbourne-based composer, sound designer, and audio programmer. Their focus is in 3D spatialized audio and dynamic music using cutting-edge techniques. Maisie consults in Australia and around the world on these topics and is heavily engaged in the game development community and in activism and representation within it. Maisie is currently working on Wayward Strand, which has received state government funding. Their work has a strong focus on dynamic and adaptive audio systems and novel experiences of musicianship. Other well-known games Maisie has worked on include VR Top's A Thin Black Line, Cosmic Express, Invert, Earthrise 1, and Framed. Juno McClure is a multidisciplinary artist and designer based in Brooklyn, New York. Their early work produced in Houston primarily consists of urban subject matter photography. Upon moving to New York in 2009, their work expanded to include digital and interactive media. Existential, perceptual, and ontological themes are often explored in their work, which has been exhibited across the US and internationally. They identify as non-binary, trans-feminine, queer person. Juno is currently working on Blood Broker, a game about human sacrifice and consent. Anna Anthropy is an American video game designer whose works include Mighty Joe Off and Dysphoria. She is the game designer in residence at the DePaul University College of Computing and Digital Media. I believe that LGBTQ people who aspire to be developers deserve the chance to become game developers, and they should be given that chance indeed. Their talents can pave the way for others like them who aspire to such careers and also create potentially awesome games with great story, development, design, graphics, and music. Keep it up, and you will succeed. When it comes to romantic themes in video games, the majority of characters in love are heterosexual. Examples being Mario and Peach, Link and Zelda, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, Cloud and Tifa, Squall and Rinoa, and many more. But that doesn't mean that LGBT romances in gaming do not exist. One of the most well-known LGBTQ romances in video games is Riley and Ellie in the hit 2013 video game, The Last of Us. In its sequel, Ellie has a relationship with a girl named Dina, who was pregnant by her then boyfriend, Jesse. Recurring tropes, themes, and archetypes have developed in the gaming industry in regards to the LGBT identity. These are similar to other forms of pop culture, such as Hollywood films like The Incredibly True Adventure of Two Girls in Love, Brokeback Mountain, Milk, Free Hell, Carol, Blue is the Warmest Color, Moonlight, Love, Simon, and TV shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Will and Grace, Glee, Degrassi Next Class, Orphan Black, Shameless, The Arrowverse, The 100, and Steven Universe that dealt with LGBT sexuality and issues. However, LGBT characters and themes in video games existed long before the 21st century. Most of the time they were comic relief or villains, or supporting characters that were NPC. In the 1980s, Super Mario Bros. 2, also known as Doki Doki Panic in Japan, had a character called Birdo. Birdo was one of Ward's henchmen and was a male who believed he was a female, which means that it was Nintendo's and video games' very first transgender character. Some YouTubers will call Birdo a trans icon. Also, Final Fight had a trans woman character called Poison, although some people still debate about it up until this day. The video game Phantasy Star 2 for the Sega Genesis had a gay NPC character called Uzbestia teaching piano, and will teach the music piano technique needed to progress in the game more cheaply to male characters because they look cute. In the 1990s, LGBT characters started to be revealed a bit more, such as Ash in Streets of Rage 3. Ash is a gay male boss who wears tight clothes and has effeminate movements. Chrono Trigger had a character called Flea, in which Frog tells the crew before the battle that Flea was no ordinary woman, to which Flea replied that he was a guy, much to the shock of Marley. Notably, Flea stated in a self-referential manner, "Male or female, what difference does it make? Power is beautiful and I've got the power." There were also other games featuring LGBT characters and themes in those decades, such as Saga Frontier, Bahamut Lagoon, Devil Summoner, and Fallout 2. Fallout 2 was the first video game of the series and of the time to feature same-sex marriage before Skyrim existed. For a game that was released in the 90s, Fallout 2 is way ahead of its time regarding same-sex marriage. Final Fantasy V has a character who was born a female but lived as a male pirate called Faris Sherwis. Faris was a twin sister of Princess Lena Tycoon, and they were separated when they were babies. She was adopted by the pirates and became their captain. A memorable scene is when Bart and Galuf discover that Faris was not a man, but a woman. She is one of the most memorable androgynous female characters in the series. A memorable scene in the original Final Fantasy VII is when Cloud enters a Honeybee Inn during his journey to find Tifa, which is optional. In the Honeybee Inn, Cloud can have the choice of entering a room where he passes out or have a bath with a group of gay bodybuilders led by Maki. And an even more memorable scene to infiltrate Don Corneo's mansion is Cloud cross-dressing as a woman. The character of Andrea Rodea in Final Fantasy VII Remake served as a replacement for Maki. Andrea is a flamboyant man who appreciates beauty, believing it transcends gender. He enjoys entertaining and incorporates a flair of showmanship into everything he does. He welcomes a challenge and vigorously trains his body and spirit regularly in pursuit of supreme beauty and perfection, admiring those who challenge themselves, praising Tifa for her well-trained physique. Despite his entertainer persona and his love for being in the spotlight, he tends to be reserved when off the stage. Andrea is a member of Corneo's esteemed trio, but appears to dislike him. After taking an interest in Cloud upon seeing his battle prowess, he was willing to help with Cloud's intentions to eliminate Corneo. In Final Fantasy VIII, the Queen of Cards, who you play Triple Triad with, is an NPC character who reveals herself as a transgender woman. In the 2000s, LGBT themes and characters started to become even more relevant. One of these examples given of these themes is Queen Aquen of Final Fantasy IX. Queen Aquen is a non-binary character who comes from a genderless tribe known as the Ku. and is referred to as a s/he. In some countries like France, queena was a she. However, some players will use either the s/he pronoun for queena, or in today's world they want to use the they/them pronouns if they like. Final Fantasy XIII has Fang and Vanille. Fang originally was going to be a male, but was later decided to make her female. Some debate that Fang and Vanille are lovers, while others say they have a sisterly bond. Majority would see them as lovers. Resident Evil Code Veronica X's central antagonist, Alfred Ashford, is called a cross-dressing freak by Claire Redfield. However, Alfred's posing as his twin sister Alexia, with whom he's obsessed with, is a reference to Norman Bates, the main antagonist in the hit movie Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty had a bisexual character called Vamp. In one coded conversation between Raiden and Snake, it is revealed that Vamp is a bisexual and was the lover of Fortune's father. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater had two LGBT characters that were lovers, Rykov and Volgan. Other games featuring same-sex relationships and LGBT characters in that time were Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, The Ballad of Gay Tony, Siphon Filter, Dark Mirror, Vice City Stories, and many more. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn had a character called Heather and was considered a lesbian since, in the Japanese version, it is said that she joined the army to meet the pretty women. In later Fire Emblem games like Fates, for example, more LGBT characters started to be revealed and included. In the first two Mass Effect video games, players could decide whether Shepard was a male or a female. The FemShep had the ability to form a romance with a male or a female. In the first two Mass Effect games, the male Shep would only form a romance with a female and would not form same-sex relationships until Mass Effect 3. In Mass Effect Andromeda, the writer character can be either straight or gay, lesbian, depending on the player's decision, as they can romance characters of either opposite or same sex. Not to forget that Assassin's Creed Abu Nukud was heavily implied to be gay. He believes that the people hate him because he is different, and is showing caressing the cheek of one of his male guards during his angry tirade, and claims he cannot serve the cause of a god who calls him an abomination, and that is a reference to a verse of the Old Testament, Leviticus 20:13, which pisses off a lot of LGBTQ people, and it's not cool to use that verse in front of them. Not cool at all. Assassin's Creed Syndicate has a transgender character called Ned Wynard, a businessman who is an ally of the Assassin Brotherhood. The character of Ned is based on a historical figure of the same name, a criminal living in London during the 19th century. Reportedly, the real Ned Wynard used the alias Johnny Smith and was a notorious womanizer. A well-known gay character in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is Juhani. Interestingly, there was a bug that made Juhani respond to advances from either gender, but eventually it was patched out, so she remained a lesbian. In Star Wars Squadrons, there's K.O. Venci, who uses they/them pronouns and is voiced by Bex Taylor Claus, known for their role as Pidge in Voltron Legendary Defender and Sin in Arrow. There were various other games where gamers could decide that their avatars pursue people of the opposite or the same gender, in games like Jade Empire, and also in MMORPGs such as World of Warcraft, Dragon Age, and other games like Saints Row, and many more. Finally, in the 2010s, there were more LGBTQ characters in video games being shown. In Mass Effect 3, both male and female Shepards could pursue a relationship with a character of either the opposite or the same gender. Skyrim allowed gamers to marry someone of the same gender as well, and so did Dragon's Dogma, Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, Dragon Age, and even The Legend of Korra, in which Korra was a bisexual and had a loving relationship with Asami. The Last of Us featured a same-sex relationship between Ellie and Riley, and this became not only a media sensation, but also a step in embracing the progress of LGBT representation in video games. In the sequel, Ellie is in a relationship with Dina, and in one part of the game during a party, she was ready to beat up someone who called her a not-so-friendly name. Calling people such words is as bad as calling someone the N-word, the S-word, and the C-word. And that is not cool at all. In The Last of Us Part 2, a transgender character is introduced and he is called Lev. Lev was once called Lily, born to a devout Seraphite mother with an older sister named Yara. The family resided in a village on the Seraphite island in Seattle. According to Yara, Lev questioned Seraphite traditions. Nevertheless, Lev continues to pray to every area where there is a statue or memorial dedicated to their goddess or prophet. On Yara's advice, Lev keeps his feelings to himself. However, that changes when he is assigned to be a wife for an elder. Denied his wish of becoming a soldier like Yara, Lev begins to openly state that he is actually a man, shaving his head and changing his name to Lev. This brazen act of defiance is met with outrage among the community, who force Lev to flee for his life. Yara chooses to go after him, resulting in her exile from the community as well, while their mother chooses to repent for their actions by abstaining from food. It is a very sad state of affairs that people let their religious beliefs dictate their relationships with their children. And if their children, siblings, cousins, nieces, and nephews, and grandchildren come out of the closet, they try to send them to a conversion therapy camp so they can be, quote-unquote, cleansed. Or they are disowned, which is very, very sad. That is a very sad and tragic thing that continues in our world up until this day. As a non-denominational myself, it's really irritating to see such things still happening. You must always love your family and friends no matter what. If someone you know comes out of the closet, family or friend, accept them. Don't disown them or end friendships because of your beliefs, because that is hatred and prejudice. Conversion therapy camps are very harmful, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. Love them always. Capiche? Love is love, and that is...
Bold true.
The award-winning video game Life is Strange, Max and Chloe can end up romantically involved depending on the player's choice. In a prequel, Chloe was romantically involved with Rachel Amber, which explains why she is so obsessed with finding her in the first video game. In the second season of the episodic series of games, Sean Diaz is bisexual, just like Max. Some would say that the game needs a healthier LGBTQ relationship still. Mortal Kombat X introduced its very first gay character, Kun Jin, who is Kung Lao's younger cousin. Fire Emblem Fates allows gamers to form same-sex relationships, and Fire Emblem Echoes as well. Now, we all know that Heather from Radiant Dawn is a lesbian, but a known gay character is Leon from Fire Emblem Echoes of Valencia, a remake of the second Fire Emblem game, Gaiden. Mass Effect Andromeda include two bisexual character aliens named PV and Vitra. The ship's science officer, Dr. Suvi Anwar, is a lesbian, and the ship's engineer, Gil Brody, is a gay man. Reyes Vidal and Kerry Tevesa are both bisexual characters who can be encountered during the game. LGBTQ characters in the Grand Theft Auto series are Asuka Kasen and Maria La Torre, since they had a thing in the past. Various games in the series have LGBTQ references like pedestrians saying the lyrics of YMCA by the Village People, a group of the 70s considered gay icons during the prime days of disco. From Liberty City and Vice City Stories, there's Rennie Wasselmeyer, a studio film director who is genderqueer. Grand Theft Auto 4's LGBTQ characters are Bernie Crane, a gay man who is a friend of Nico Bellic, and from GTA 4 standalone DLC is Anthony Prince, aka Gay Tony. And finally, there's our very own Trevor Phillips, who is a bisexual male known for his raging psychopathic temper. Not to forget, sometimes when switching characters, he can appear wearing a dress, which is pretty fashionable to some. Another well-known LGBT characters are in the video game Overwatch by Blizzard. On Christmas of 2016, Tracer was revealed to be a gay character in a comic based on the video game Reflections. There are also other various LGBTQ characters in the game aside from Tracer, such as Soldier 76, Vincent, and Link 17. Since the creation of that game, developers clearly stated that Overwatch will have LGBT characters. Apex Legends is also known to have LGBTQ characters such as Gibraltar, Loba, Fuse, and Bloodhound. And finally, there's Telltale's The Walking Dead, that included LGBTQ characters in Season 2. Clementine is a bisexual character in which players can decide to form a romance either with Lewis or Violet. Other LGBTQ characters include Javier Garcia, Paul Monroe, aka Jesus, Minerva, Paige, and so on. I believe LGBT representations in gaming are a good thing, as I quote one of my favorite comic book artists, Jeff Johns. We live in a diverse society, and video games are a reflection of this. There should be characters that can be there for everyone. Because in video games we've seen the empowerment of women, life lessons being taught, and how gaming has brought people together. In my honest opinion, being a gamer shouldn't have anything to do with gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, and ethnicity. Why? Because video games are for everybody. Loving comics, sci-fi, action, and fantasy films and shows should have nothing to do with who or what you are. If you love it, you love it. Ask any gamer, any real gamer. Video games are for everybody, and gaming is gaming. It doesn't matter whether you're a male or a female, whether you're straight, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, or gay, whether you're white, black, Latino, Asian, or Arabic. Gaming is gaming. The very first GaymerX Convention was first opened in the late summer of 2013, and there were over 1,400 attendees. It was located in San Francisco, California, and special guests included voice actress Ellen McLain and her husband, John Patrick Lowry, Zach Weiner, the Tester Season 2 winner Matthew Michael Brown, aka Gaymer, Anna Anthropy, and Pandora Box. We remember Matthew Michael Brown in the short-lived PSN reality TV game series The Tester. His nickname in the show was Gaymer and was the very first gay contestant to win the competition, and he was very much loved by his castmates in the loft. GaymerX was founded by Matt Kahn, a gay man and lifelong gamer who felt larger gaming conventions like E3 were, at the time, unwelcoming places for LGBTQ gamers. The first instance of GaymerX was financed through a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter and occurred on August 3rd and 4th, 2013 in San Francisco, California. Organizers have said the event is about uniting gay gamers, not creating a division among gamers, as they want to create a safe place for LGBTQ gamers. The planned convention began with significant news coverage of its initial Kickstarter launch, but the event was achieved more widespread attention after the anti-gay Westboro Baptist Church, known widely as a hate group that pickets espousing homophobic statements, announced that they will protest the convention. When that happened, various game bloggers were furious that the WBC picketed the convention and expressed their anger towards that cult. Bloggers that lambasted the WBC cult were Matt Jarbo and Alpha Omega Sin, among many others. GaymerX began with a Kickstarter project launch on August 1st, 2012, which was covered by sites such as Examiner and GamePolitics.com. The convention raised over $14,000 in its first 2 days and exceeded its goal of $25,000 as early as August 6th and ended with over $90,000. Throughout the fundraising campaign, organizers added new support levels, in addition to existing support levels that include admission to the event and voice acting from Ellen McLain. At a session during the convention, McLain took part as assistant to a marriage proposal to help an attendee propose to his boyfriend by voicing a version of the song Still Alive with reworked lyrics. GaymerX 2 was held at the Intercontinental Hotel between July 11 and 13, 2014 in downtown San Francisco. It featured Darren Young, an openly gay wrestler in the WWE, who revealed that he would be a playable character in WWE 2K15 at the time. Let's not also forget that the GaymerX Convention was also in the HBO TV series Looking. I'm not a viewer of the show, but I know some of my friends that are viewers of the show were as well. And finally, in conclusion, this episode was a very interesting topic to talk about, since I believe that LGBT being included in video games is a good thing for those who are LGBTQ. And also, because we live in a diverse society and video games, much like comics, are a reflection of this. We want characters to be there for everyone. While the industry is mostly heterosexual, it is a great thing that they have a chance to create games of their own and even create characters that can represent the LGBTQ community. And also, it was great learning the history of various LGBTQ game developers who created various games that we all loved, such as Dragon Age, and stories that are told, character development, everything. I also believe that it's a good thing there are more LGBT representations in gaming because, as said, people need characters that can represent them and someone they can relate to. Not just because of identity, but also the stories of what makes them unique. Who they are, and what they are destined to do in the story. As gaming feeds a core need of relatedness as well. And that is all I have to say, gamers. To every LGBTQ who develops video games, plays video games, writes stories in video games, I want to remind you all one thing with 3 words. It gets better. I'm John, host of Video Games in the World, signing off. Happy Pride, gamers!